Well, hello there, and welcome to Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. You know, our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution. The law of contribution says growing yourself enables you to grow others. You can't give what you don't have. So, first, we must grow ourselves in order to grow others. We believe outstanding leaders like yourself will help us to help others. So, tonight, we have another dynamic leader with us in session. You know, every week I like to do an introduction of our guest. So, let me do an introduction of our guest. Marshall Semien is a licensed attorney in Lake Charles, or has been a licensed attorney in Lake Charles for over 28 years. Marshall is a proud graduate of Washington High School and LSU Law School. And he is a practicing attorney with Semien Law Firm, who is dedicated to providing comprehensive and ethical, high-quality legal representation using state-of-the-art technology and traditional legal resources to deliver professional legal services in a cost-effective manner. The firm was founded in 1999 by Marshall Semien Jr. and is located on the Riverside Sanctuary overlooking the beautiful Calcasieu River in Lake Charles, Louisiana. In representing his clients, the Semien Law Firm brings to bear an arsenal of legal, practical, and economic resources to ensure delivery of the highest level of professional services. So let's welcome Mr. Marshall Semien to the show.
How you doing, Cedrick? Hello, everybody.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm doing great. I'm excited about having you here tonight. And I know that we were planning to talk about this enterprise extension project, but hey, share with some great news with the audience, and then we'll still go through and talk about this.
Well, we got word today from the city attorney's office, that the people that want to do the rezoning to industrial, they withdrew their application. And I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with the amount of attention that it has gotten and the voices that they've heard.
So they'd gone through this whole process, and because of the voices that they heard, they withdrew their application. That's how
withdrew the application. Yeah, and you know, we went through the zoning committee hearing, which was a 4-hour hearing, so they got to hear a lot of voices over there. And then this one was going to be such a large gathering that they had to move the city council meeting to the Lake Charles Civic Center to accommodate everybody. So I imagine they realized that the writing was on the wall. You know, it's biblical. When you go around the walls of Jericho and shout at it, the walls come down and everything's got to give up, you know?
Absolutely. Well, that is awesome. And Marshall, I know that you played a major role in this effort to defeat this project. So congratulations to you and everybody else that were involved with helping get this defeated.
Well, the congratulations goes to the community, Cedrick, because, you know, one person cannot move the things that have to be moved in our community, and we speak as one voice. You're seeing that nationwide, and I'm glad to see that kind of energy is coming into Lake Charles too.
Yeah, that is awesome. So for the people that really wasn't sure what the Enterprise Extension Project was, help educate them on what that was.
Well, Cedrick, back, you know, the traditional story of the northern part of Lake Charles is that it has not been thriving like most other areas of the city or of comparable cities. And that despite the fact that it has a major interstate highway going right through it with no development. There's another federal highway, 171, goes through it. And it's got a natural river that goes through basically a Black community. So there was a study done back in 2003 that said that the problem with the community was that you had some things on the river part, a lot of old industrial functions that just weren't thriving. You know, back in the days you had Halliburton and Schlumberger, they had businesses out there, but as they moved out, what I call dirty industry moved in, like scrap metal yards and things that you couldn't get anywhere else. And they said those things were competing with the residential aspects of trying to develop and grow. And they said the two of those couldn't coexist. So I got in the city council in 2005, saw that study and said, you know what, the principal side of that story said, take the entire riverside and put this major thoroughfare through it, basically a parkway. And that road would open up the riverside for a different type of development that would support the community. You'd have shops, restaurants, good quality of life venues. People can go and can you imagine going and sit in your community at the riverside, looking out over pristine waterways and everything else. So we started putting that in. Well, we put the first phase in, which covered a lot of area, and then after that, when I got out of office, the whole energy kind of died down. In the meantime, those industrial companies that were there decided, wait a minute, that's a perfectly beautiful road that we can use to expand our industry. And that's been the battle that's been going on, trying to finish the project and let it realize its potential to bring the type of development that brings quality neighborhoods versus industrial uses want to take it over and basically pervert it and say, look, we want to just go ahead and make this all industrial and move everybody out.
Yeah, so definitely not something that we want in North Lake Charles.
And we've seen that this is not a theory. This is a real time thing. There was a traditional African American community of Mossville, which was outside of Westlake, and the same thing happened to it. You know, those industries come around. They call it environmental racism for a reason. They come around low income communities that don't have the political structure or power to back them off. And the industries came around it, and what they did, they disenfranchised a Black community. And they didn't just take the community out. You lost the culture, you lost the relationships, the traditional fabric that keeps the community together was just totally ripped and disenfranchised. And the same thing looked like it was trying to occur over here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's great news. So let's kind of unpack some of this thing for the citizens of North Lake Charles. The citizens of Lake Charles, but specifically North Lake Charles. Why was this defeat so important and critical?
Well, this is the third time that we've had a rezone go before the city council for this area. You know, the first time the everything goes before the planning and zoning. So the scrap metal yards wanted to expand the first time, and the community showed out at the planning and zoning meeting, and they won. The planning and zoning agreed to support the community. Then it went to the city council, and the city council decided to support the community. So they voted to stop the rezoning. Well, then it came back where a politically connected property owner came in and said, well, I want to rezone mine. And again, the community showed up at the planning and zoning committee, and the planning and zoning said, look, we've already said we don't want that. So we turned it down. Then it went to the city council, and the city council by a 4-3 vote. It was 4 white city councilmen versus the 3 Black city council people voted to allow that rezoning to turn that one area industrial. And I remember telling them right there, I said, you guys have opened Pandora's box, because now this place is going to become the Wild Wild West. And so it came back where you had it said a whole bunch of property owners, really the scrap metal yards came and said, look, let's just rezone the whole area industrial and to hell with the people that live there. And again, the people showed up at the planning and zoning committee meeting. And this time it was pretty significant because the city council chambers, this is pre-COVID, was packed. The fire marshal said that was enough people. The lobby in City Hall was packed. The fire marshal said that was enough. You had an overflow group in the outside in the parking lot. Now, the time I had served on the city council for years, and I've never seen that kind of turnout. And this wasn't just a whole bunch of rah-rah people. These were community leaders. You had pastors in there. You had the person who founded the African American Chamber of Commerce in there. You had a number of people that, when you look around, you sat there and said, now, this is what happens when we come together. And we've defeated it, and now it was on its way back to the city council. And the city council, this city had to make a stand whether they want to support the community or support industry. Like I said, the studies have already shown that the two can't coexist. And so this was the rubber was going to hit the road. This city was going to have to decide whether we're going to support the African American community, the North Lake Charles community, or whether we're going to just sell them out to industry and destroy another traditional African American community like the Mossville community was done.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I was at that the last meeting, and it was great turnout. And I see Cameo Green has said the same thing. She was there. It was awesome turnout for North Lake Charles citizens. It's amazing what we can do when we really want to, when we're intentional.
One voice. That's all it takes. When we speak in one voice, it is so loud. I was at President Obama's inauguration, and when the Chief Justice said, "Congratulations, Mr. President," when those 2 million voices went up, Cedric, I've never heard a sound like that before, and I can only imagine that God must think that when we all speak in one voice, He can't help but make sure that we move in the right direction.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, everything rises and falls on leadership. So thank you and the folks who are who are leading this effort. Um,
And Cedric, let me give a little shout out because, like I said, one person can't do this. You know, the representative for the district, Mary Morris, she really took the charge. She got the people out there. But after this thing, after we came out the planning and zoning meeting, it was pretty significant because, I mean, like I said, it was a 4-hour meeting and the community stayed, you know. And I spoke to the other council people, Rodney Gann and Lavertha August, the other two African American council people. They said, Marshall, we're going to go talk to everybody because the only way we're going to defeat this, we can't have these 4-3 votes. This council has to vote 7-0 to say once and for all, we're going to support this community. And they did that. You know, they went out there and did it. My hats off to Rodney and Lavertha, as well as Mary. I spoke to these councilmen, and they realized that they had let the genie out the bottle, and they realized that what are you going to do? You're going to galvanize us over something like this? And they just decided, you know, it's not worth it. Apparently, the word got back to those property owners. They realized it was dead in the water, so they withdrew their application. That's not to say that they won't try again if they think because, you know, the thing that people think about the Black community, well, they get excited about something, but let them calm down and we'll come and try to backdoor it. But there's no backdoors on this. We're shutting it down.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we have to stay vigilant and we have to stay on top of this. Why do you think these companies? Well, I'm sure that there's some money that's behind it, but why do you believe that they really wanted to do this?
Well, you know, this enterprise extension was part of a $12 million road project that the citizens of the city, the entire city, got behind. And because it wasn't moving any further, these guys realized that, look, we've got a $12 million road where we can bring more stuff into the community, expand our operations, and just take it over. So the area itself, because of the water access, is very valuable. You can't find those kind of areas. The fact that we have a brand new $12 million road in is more attractive. But the most subtle thing is that when you're in a Black community that's socioeconomically disadvantaged, a business tends to take those people lightly, our people lightly, and say, look, we can do it the hell we want because there's only 2 scrap metal yards in this entire city, and both of them are in this community. And they wouldn't even give it a second thought about putting it anywhere else. So until we stand up for ourselves and quit waiting for somebody else to come to our rescue, these things are going to keep happening to us.
Sure, absolutely. And I remember at this last meeting, they were talking about these jobs, you know, bringing in jobs that were making $48,000 a year. And it's nothing wrong with making $48,000 a year. I want to be very clear about that. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. However, when you're trying to use that as your rally cry for people, here's the way I look at 48,000 in regards to what they were trying to do. 48,000 feels like 38,000 once you take taxes out of it. And when you're living on 38, it really feels like 28 when you have all of your family and bills and obligations and all this stuff. So with that, they then really continue to marginalize and don't impact the life of people like they try to claim with $48,000 a year, right?
Right.
And there are so many more things of higher value that we could do with that area without this project coming into place. So again, just want to say awesome job on making this happen to Mary Morris and whoever else was was involved with this. So, what's the benefit of now, or what's the next step now that this has failed? What's our next step? What should we be doing? What should North Lake Charles citizens stand up for?
We know, Cedric, the city council decided that they weren't going to just sit on their laurels on this thing. What happened is this past Wednesday they had a city council meeting, and the city council voted sent a unanimous resolution to Baton Rouge to have the state representative Wilford Carter do something to complete this road. And the most logical way to do it is to turn the road into a state road. Let the state do it. You know, the state Department of Transportation has an $800 million budget, so this is not a big project for them. The citizens of Lake Charles have already put up 12 million, so that should be enough, you know. And if you look at the road, it's the only north-south road that goes through the entire city, and it connects two federal highways, which means that there's all kind of federal funding that the state can acquire that the city can't really acquire. And also because it's the only north-south route besides the 171 corridor, it gives a hurricane evacuation route, which makes it even more attractive. So the city passed a resolution to send that to Judge Carter, and I've spoken to Judge Carter. He's excited about it because we're going to try to do that. But the other thing is, one of the arguments that was made was, you're right, about economic development. And I want to make it clear that the community is not against economic development, but we are for progressive development that's going to help, that's going to blend in and strengthen the fabric of our community. I give you a classic example. Right down the street on Opelousas Street, SWLA Center for Health Services provides health care services for people that are uninsured, underinsured, and even have insurance. That model has been so successful that they've replicated it. They have a satellite facility in Lafayette, in Crowley, and in Oberlin, of all places. And these are healthcare professionals. So these aren't minimum wage jobs like fast food or anything else. These are health professionals. And the number of African-American doctors in the city, most of them, their roots originated with SWA Center for Health Services. So those are the kind of businesses that we can attract into our community and support. And we don't need to just be relying upon the scrap that's left over, literally, the scrap that's left over to come into our community and define us. So, you know, there's room on that river for restaurants, you know, bars. You can have entertainment. You can have any number of different things. You can have professional offices. Why should I have to go in 210 and go all the way across town to get my insurance done or to do my banking when there's a venue right here on a beautiful waterfront to do that? So that's what the bigger picture is that we're not a destitute African-American community. We have basically all the resources that any major city would die over. And we just need to develop it.
Sure, absolutely. And this is where next step planning comes into play. And so you said the city council voted to have this turned over to Representative Carter to try to help get state funds and federal funds for this project.
That's right, and that was a 7-0 vote. So that tells you right there where the support is. Plus, we had spoken already to the DOTD secretary, who's Sean Wilson, who's actually a brother, very well thought of guy, and he came to Lake Charles and he thought it was a great idea. So let's see where that goes, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, Marshall, paint the picture for residents on, because I know you were involved with some studies, I think back when you were in the city council. Paint the picture for residents of what this could look like, both from a traffic, financial standpoint, financial impact standpoint, if this comes to fruition.
Well, you know, the city council had Ernie Broussard, who's the former city planner, do a study through his company to find out what would happen if the road was completed, whether the road would actually connect to Highway 171. So what you would have would be a parkway connected from 171 to I-10 that goes up and opens up the entire riverfront for development. Ernie Broussard's numbers were pretty astounding. He said that road connected would generate $1.2 billion worth of investment. We have not seen that kind of investment in this community. And the beauty of it, Cedrick, is that you've got I-10 going through the community. You've got 171. And then if Enterprise Boulevard connects those along the river, you will have a triangle of commerce, and your traditional neighborhoods would not be disturbed. So if we can bring $1.2 billion worth of investment into our community, and that's the shops, the restaurant, the healthcare centers, the professionals, and everything else, we have all the services that we need to make a robust community where instead of people wanting to move out to other places and go to older neighborhoods that have already had the life lived out of them, you'll see us staying in our communities and thriving.
Yes. And with that, we know that when a local community is thriving, we know that that also has an impact on not only just the economy but also local schools,
Yes.
right?
I mean, if people live in the, like right now, when that study was done that said about the industry and building the roadway and looked at it said, the problem that you run into is that so many people have moved out of the community. You've got a lot of adjudicated properties. Other people have come in and bought behind them and turned those into rental properties. And so now you've got a pretty transient population that's not there, and that's going to affect things like school performance issues. It's going to affect job opportunities. But once you give a good foundation, a strong foundation for a community where people are starting to come in and invest, they're buying homes. If you own a home, now you're concerned about how the schools are operating. You're concerned about crime in your neighborhood. You're concerned about helping your neighbor. And that's the American dream that we need to participate in and be a part of. And we don't need to wait for anybody else to do that because it's right here in our doorstep.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So would this connection, Marshall, be a connection from Enterprise to Fitzroy Road or some other route to connect 171?
But the route that the second phase that we looked at is right now it ends on First Avenue. The second phase was to continue going down First Avenue. You run into the St. Mary Drive housing projects, but on the backside of it, they had closed a lot of those because the ground was sinking. So the perfect solution is to bring the road around there. It's the housing authorities, so they would gladly give the right of way. Then the road would start turning around through the woods and come back to the east. And if you ever go down Goss Boulevard was a 4-lane boulevard too, and then it just stopped. Well, the Enterprise would come through those woods and connect at Goss and start 4-laning going north to Fitzroy. Once it got to Fitzroy, you could put a traffic circle. You're seeing traffic circles come up all over the place. One side would go to Riverside Park. That's why we put the park there to help people vision what the Riverside looks like. And the other side would go down Fitzroy Road. Now, coming down Fitzroy Road, you have Conbury Fondale Elementary School. And people were worried about that, but that would be a matter of putting a traffic signal right there at Pear Street with the cross boxes that come down and plus crossing guards to make sure that happens. Then it would continue down. Now, once you got to the Martin Luther King Center, which is the corner of Semien Street, it becomes a lot tighter trying to go down Fitzroy there, but there's a pipeline that goes right through the woods there and connects to Conoco Street. So if the road connected to Conoco Street through those woods right there, then it will connect to 171, and then that would be a major interchange because that would be a transformational interchange. And what that would do is that would help the north-south traffic go into the neighborhood, through the neighborhood, stop. It would help the 171 corridor because the northern part of the parish would have road because it would alleviate a lot of the traffic concerns. And then you open up probably some of those beautiful property for development. And it's on the riverside where even where I am here on the river, I'm right on the edge of the river. I don't even need flood insurance. I'm the equivalent where my feet stand on the grass. I'm the equivalent of being on the third floor of a building over that. So it's a no-brainer. It should be done. It needs to be completed. And once it's done, the next thing is going to be getting our businesses the opportunity to participate in that. We've got a lot of businesses they're marginally doing it, but we're marginally making it. Some are doing better. And we're going to have to start putting together incubators and community development financial institutions and get the red line off this community and really make a fair opportunity for everybody that wants to achieve their dreams. Because that is the American dream.
Absolutely. And, with this increase of traffic flow and elimination of congestion, and because it's going to open up I-10, then you agree it opens up the opportunity for outside businesses to start considering coming to North Lake Charles?
Yeah, and I would hope that when those businesses would come in from wherever they come, that they will partner with people in the community, not just giving jobs and stuff, but actually taking on people who want to invest. If people have property and somebody says, look, I want to do something on your property. Well, look, I don't want to sell you my property. Make me a part of your business, you know. Let those kind of things, because that's generational wealth. That's how a people can build generational wealth, is to participate in the process. Because it's easy to pick up a check and go on and hit the casinos, but it's a whole lot better if you and all your friends that have property together, if you put a 99-year lease and lease it to a Dave and Buster's or something like that, then you done created generational wealth, because for the next 3 generations, the most fun walk you're going to take is to the mailbox to pick up a check and probably be a part of something pretty transformational in your neighborhood.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it is amazing that when you start thinking about generational change, right? And this happens in a lot of neighborhoods around the country. Even in my neighborhood here in Cyprus, Houston built a third loop on Highway 99. And when you go back 10 or 15 years ago, everywhere where 99 is today, it was nothing but farmland.
That's right.
And now everywhere up and down 99, the transformation happened. So that farmland turned into, and some of them were sold outright, some were given the lease, decided to lease it. But there's subdivisions that are all up and down 99. There's all kind of new shopping centers that are all up and down 99. It totally transformed this northwest part of the city.
And I bet you the school performance has gone up, the crime has gone down, opportunity and hope has regenerated.
Yes, absolutely. And when people are rejuvenated, regenerated, excited, great things always happen.
Always happen.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I always say, Cedric, we're a Joshua generation. You know, if when you look at the book of Joshua, there was all these negative reports about going into the land that was promised to them, the land of milk and honey. I think Joshua and Caleb were the two that said, you know what, I understand what you're saying, guys, but we're moving forward anyway. And when they crossed over and went into that land, they inhabited it, they inherited it, and they thrived in it.
Absolutely.
For generations, you know.
Yes, absolutely. So are there going to be any, now that this has been taken off the table, are there going to be any next step meetings that they're going to be having with the community to start talking about, not necessarily the state road yet, but things that we can do in the meantime to get prepared and help ourselves?
Yeah, in my practice, what I do a lot of, I represent a lot of businesses, but also do a lot of estate planning. So I help a lot of people. They come in and you know, one of the biggest problems that you have in this area is that there's a lot of adjudicated properties, because people, when somebody dies, they don't do a succession. And by the time they decide that, oh, we need to do something with this property, they have to do so many successions that it costs more to keep the title clear than it is to keep the land. So we really need to get together with people and let them know about every advantage they need to have to make sure that they maintain their properties, keep good titles, make sure everything is done, and then prepare them for the growth. You know, the good thing, like I said, is that it's not going to affect the traditional communities, because none of the construction and all that is going to go through it. It goes all the way around it. But at the same time, when the time comes, you know, people worry about gentrification and things like that, but that's steps you can take to make sure that doesn't happen to you. I mean, if you're over 65, just freeze your property assessment, you know. But there's all kind of things that can happen there. But the whole idea is to prepare a community for that kind of change, because the one thing that you always know is that change, even good change, kind of, when people don't understand it, it really scares them. So you need to take all the guests out of it and let people know this is where we think we're going to go. This is how we need to get there. And empower them to participate, because it is our community.
Sure. And what's the best way, Marsha, do you think, to help educate, especially our older residents, right?
Right.
They may be alone and afraid to trust anyone. So what's the best way we can, specifically in North Lake Charles, help our residents better understand the opportunities that lie ahead for them?
Well, we have to show them real examples. I mean, I can talk to people all day, but you know, we're very visual people. If you can't show us where I'm telling it, it's all just words. So if you look at what, for instance, what Magic Johnson was able to do in South Central Los Angeles, just by bringing his movie theater chains in there and bringing a whole bunch of investors, they were able to transform entire blocks of neighborhoods. You're seeing the same thing happen in North Dallas. So this is, you've got an example all over the country of communities taking their communities back and thriving. But the one thing that you can show the older people that nobody else can show them is that these communities are doing that with much less than what we have to work with. A lot of these communities don't have rivers in them. They don't have riversides in them. They're not on 100-year floodplain lands. They're not near interstates and things like that. And if they're able to thrive with much less, just think about what we can do with much more.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you bring up some great points and some great examples of this being done in other areas of the country. Obviously, this is a passion for you. It sounds like it.
Yeah, I moved away from Lake Charles for a number of years, and when I came back, I just saw a different city. I said, "Wow!" I've been to some places that I've seen some amazing things being done by amazing people, and I see even more amazing things here with more amazing people. And the only thing that has been missing is that we have all been operating in our own silos. And when I was campaigning, you go and talk to people. That was my favorite part. And when you talk to people, you realize all of us want the same thing. We just got different ways of getting there. But if we all pull the wagon in the same direction, we will get there.
Absolutely. That they always say teamwork makes the dream work. I like to say the law of significance says one is too small a number to achieve greatness. So if we want to do great things, if we want to achieve anything of significance in North Lake Charles, we need to do it as a solid team, right?
That's right. That's right.
And not in our. Go ahead.
And the time is now, because if you look at the movement, I mean, George Floyd's death, as tragic as it was, this whole movement was different than any of the other ones, because it wasn't like people saying, "Look, I'm gonna protest for a few days and I'm gonna go back to my silo." They said, "No, enough is enough." And that power, the strength and momentum that came from that was so powerful that the one black NASCAR driver said, "We need to do away with Confederate flags," and it was done. And in November, I'm praying that everybody goes out there and votes, because we've got, leadership at the top of this country, in the White House, needs to go. I mean, this is our time to make that decision. We need to do it, because if we don't, there's a whole agenda to backslide us back to where we were. Because some people see what's happening as a threat. I see it as a need to come together, because at the end of the day, no matter what color you are, God created one race, human. That's all he said. And then he gave us this Neapolitan flavor. I like Neapolitan ice cream because I like going through the different flavors, man. I start with the chocolate because I just think it's the coolest flavor. Then I want to sprinkle my taste buds. I go to strawberry and the vanilla. But that's how we were created. So there's no one that's going to dominate the other. And they got into a debate about, well, Black lives matter, all lives matter, and the debate is pretty clear. In order for all lives to matter, Black lives have to matter. So you can't separate the two. If Black lives don't matter, then guess what? All lives definitely cannot matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so what you're helping us, Marshall, with understand, I hope our audience is picking up on this. What you're helping people understand is this is how we free ourselves from a system of oppression. This is how we pick ourselves up and say, we're going to do this. The great Toni Morrison said, the function of freedom is to free someone else.
Free someone else. That's right.
We have to free ourselves.
And I always said that we need to not wait for somebody else to do this for us, do that for us. I hear people all the time say, well, they're not doing this for us, they're not doing that for us. I said, well, who is they? I said, look, I can tell you right now, if I got to put clothes on my children's back and feed my family, I'm not waiting for anybody. I'm going to do that myself. If I need a community that needs to reach its potential, I'm not waiting for somebody to come in and do that. I'm going to get together with my neighbors and say, let's dust ourselves off. Let's pick ourselves up and let's make it happen. And you'll be surprised how much you can get done when that does come together.
Yeah, that is awesome. So Marshall, one time you walked me through the, I I-10 corridor and the financial impact that it could have on our
Yes.
city. Yeah, kind of briefly help people understand. I don't know that everybody understands the impact that this can have.
Well, I break it down like this. Think of a city as a human body. You know, it has all of these little parts. The body needs all these parts to function. Well, in the body, wherever you have blood flow, you're gonna have life. I mean, if your arteries start getting clogged, you're gonna start having problems. If your circulation cuts off, something's gonna get amputated. Well, in this city, in this community, we've got a major artery, I-10. There's so much traffic. There's about 80,000 cars a day that passes through the city. If you put 80,000, and those are numbers that you see everywhere else. If you pull one day's worth of cars off, 8,000 cars over a whole year's time, and got them to spend an average of $1,000 a car, that's millions of dollars. That's a no-brainer. But if you took a whole month worth of cars and got them to stop and do the same thing, that's billions of dollars. I did it on 70,000 cars. If you got 30 days worth of cars to stop and spend $1,000 each, that's $2.1 billion. That's how strong this is.
Wow.
And it's a classic example because everybody thought, well, Lake Charles can't do that. Look at the casinos. I mean, those casinos are literally doing exactly what we said. It's two buildings in one spot that's pulling in a month's worth of cars and getting those people to spend at least an average of $1,000 a year, and they are racking up. And people have to go out their way to go there. So imagine if you had those kind of businesses on our I-10 corridor. And, you know, they say that every dollar that comes into a community, if you do it right, that dollar is going to circulate 7 times. So that dollar that stopped on the interstate is going to make its way to the food store. It's going to make its way to the barber shop. It's going to make its way to somebody's table to buy some shoes, to get them some school supplies and everything else before it leaves. And that's what we have to do is we've got that major artery. You've got the 171 corridor that brings 30,000 cars a day. Enterprise, when it's completed, would start off slow, but then you got another artery. You put that much blood flow artery in a traditional neighborhood like ours, now you've got a heart, and a heart beats. And when a heart beats, it distributes blood everywhere and life everywhere. And that's what we've got. We're in the most unique position I've ever seen in the Black community. I didn't realize that till I left and came back and said, oh my goodness, do we even know what we're sitting on top of?
Right. And the beautiful thing is, I-10 corridor that you're talking about, I want people to understand this. It's really right there in North Lake Charles. So those dollars that circulate at least 7 times before it leaves is circulating in North Lake Charles. Some of it will circulate, you know, across the whole city, but North Lake Charles could benefit from this type of movement.
And look, Cedrick, there are some things that we don't have in our city because all of the commerce is on the south side off of the 210 corridor. Well, there's certain businesses they don't want to build on loops. They want to build on interstates. You know, take Buc-ee's. You get a Buc-ee's service station. I mean, forget the gas. Look at everything else that's in those type stations, the jobs and the economy that it brings in. Well, you know, just like, and people say, well, Marcia, who's going to want to come all the way to North Lake Charles to do anything? I said, look, if you get in your car and go on 210 to go to Target, I guarantee you people can get in their car and get on 210 and come to the north part of Lake Charles and do some shopping, because that's something that we have here that they don't have there and they cannot get there. So we just have to take our own blinders off and actually think outside our boxes.
Absolutely. We have to get outside the comfort zone. The comfort zone is characterized as doing the same thing in the same ways at the same time with the same people and still asking the question, why is my community not changing? Why is my life not changing? You see, we have to stretch ourselves and get outside our comfort zone in order for that change to happen. So this is awesome.
You know, my grandfather said about the comfort zone? He said, son, sometimes your comfort zone is not necessarily your set place. And your gifts say that you need to be in your set place to really get all your blessings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, we have a question. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but Edith on Facebook asked, Edith Courtney Williams says, what's the new ordinance they passed for the I-10 area?
Well, they passed, I think what they did, they passed some economic development zones, some economic development districts, to try to see if they can capture some of the taxes that come in, things like that. Something like a TIF, but they passed a bunch of them. I'm not quite sure exactly why they did that, because you already had in place a statewide mandated area called the Lake Charles North Redevelopment Authority. That had a pretty large SWAT that you could put in, and created that and made it an economic development district, created a community development corporation and things like that. So they've got all these little different overlay districts. And I think that maybe it's meant to pacify people, but you don't need the small things. I mean, you need this is a big economic engine, and you need a bigger footprint to make that economic engine go. I mean, you don't drive a Fiat in a race with eight cylinder engines. You gotta kick it up.
Well, not if you want to win.
Not if you want to win. That's right.
That is awesome. A good friend of mine is on here. It's from Florida, Deacon Ray Lee. He says, "Great teaching, Marshall." So,
thank you, Deacon.
Great job.
It all originates in the Word. That's for sure. That's where the truth is always.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with that. So, for the city council, right? Should our citizens reach out to city council, or let me ask it a different way. Why and when should citizens reach out to their city council representatives?
I think anytime you have a question or you have something that you want to say, call your city council representative. I would encourage us to go to the city council meetings, because until you sit in those meetings and see the process, you really can't understand it. I remember when I was in the city council, it just meant that much more to me when I saw the community come in, because they would get the perspective of what you're trying to do. I mean, each one of those city councilmen represents roughly about 11,000 citizens, and they can only speak to what those are going to have. So if you're one of those 11,000 citizens and you need something said, speak. That's biblical. I mean, you go to the walls of Jericho, those people spoke. In November, we're going to speak, and some walls are going to come down. People that's trying to build walls, their walls are about to come down. And that's the only way you can do that. You have to communicate. God gave us 2 ears, 2 eyes. I think you told me about that, but 1 mouth. And when we speak with that 1 mouth and that 1 voice, the 2 ears have to listen, the 2 eyes have to see, the 2 nostrils have to breathe.
Okay, I agree with you, and definitely like that philosophy. So, Marshall, you know a lot about this stuff, and we talked about it earlier. It's a part of your passion, but why? Why is it so important?
I do this every day. In my law practice, I represent businesses, small, large, medium. I see people come in and they have their dreams. They have a vision for their future. They just need to know how to get there. So we roll up our sleeves and we make it happen, I mean, you've got any number of businesses. SWLA, Center for Health Services. I've been representing them, and I've seen them grow exponentially just because they're single-minded about what they do. But I also represent Christus Hospital, the Common Grounds Coffee on Ryan Street. She was in Gillis and decided that she needs to move to another place. Got that done, and that is going to be the most popular coffee house in town. You look at Meek's Lounge. I mean, we've got a number of businesses out there that people just took a chance, took a shot, and did what they need to do. I tell people all the time, the elderly crowd, those of you that have retired with $1 million pension, you're potential investors. And somebody told me, "Oh no, I got to live off of this." I had 3 gentlemen come to my office one day. They had gotten laid off, and they were worried about what it was, age discrimination. We looked at it, and the company did everything they did, but they gave them each a severance package of like $75,000, which was a year's salary. And they said, "What am I going to do with this?" I said, "Have you ever thought about investing?" They're like, "Oh no, we got to live off of this." I said, "It's not going to go that far." So I said, "Look, there's a gentleman that wanted to open a coffee shop, restaurant in Lafayette, downtown Lafayette. He went to the bank, and the bank told him no. And I helped him with his business plan. It was excellent. So I said, let's get together with the guy." So they got together with the guy. Now it was 5 of those guys. He needed $80,000 to get his project started. So I told him, y'all need to each put up about 20. So, "Oh, I can't do that." I said, "No, don't put up your money." I said, "Take your 20,000, put it in the bank, put it in the CD, and you can borrow against it because that's prime plus 2, and then it's to him. Now he needs the money, so he's going to pay you a higher interest rate. Well, lo and behold, the guy goes, he gets his 80,000, he starts his coffee shop. The CD, their money's still in the bank, earning money for them. And after a while, they said, Marshall, we got this. He only needed 80. We gave him 100 because it was 5 of us. Let's have a celebration. I said, no, take that 20 and pay that back to the bank. That's the first note, pay it. They did that. Next thing you know, they called and said, Marshall, what's going on? The bank doesn't want to talk to us, and I return our calls. What did you do? I said, well, look, remember, I told you to get an amortized note that says how much interest and principal you're paying. I said, well, look, you took the bank's own $20,000 and paid that back to them, and look where it took you to know that. So whatever the interest rate was, by the time we recalculated it, they were paying less than 1%. So I know it's a lot of stuff coming, but they had a CD in the bank. Their money was already in the bank earning money. They had lent the bank's money to another guy that was paying them a high percent. And plus it basically cost them nothing. So those guys were like, oh my goodness, man, let us know when there's another project. But we need to start thinking like that, because every dollar that you have in your pocket is your employee. You need to put it to work.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great lesson, Marshall, in explosive growth. And I call it moving the commas, right? Moving the commas is moving the commas in your dollars. And that's explosive growth, right? And you're absolutely right. We have to start thinking strategically like that when we're making tactical decisions.
That's right.
Right. Well, you know, some people, Marshall, know who you are. Some people may not know who you are, and I don't know what your plans are for the future. But you bring a lot of experience and knowledge to the city of Lake Charles. So tell us about your law practice and what you specialize in.
Well, like I said, I do a lot of business. I represent a lot of businesses because I really always had this knack for helping people work through these kind of problems. I do some personal injury, big cases, you know, to help people out. I also do a lot of estate planning. You'd be surprised. People need successions done. Everybody should have a will. If you have any type of property, you need to have a will, and you need to have a strategy about what you're going to do, because, you know, we can't take it with us, but it should be a generational blessing. You know, it takes, if you work all your life, you pay your home off, and then it's inherited by your children, and they haven't been groomed to take care of it and things like that, and they lose that, then you've basically lost your inheritance. You know, that's the Jacob and Esau issue there. So I try to teach people how to protect what they have and put it in the right places. You know, I don't tell them anything about how to invest their money and things like that. I just tell them that, look, if you got something, let's protect it, and that's what I do. Now, on the other side, I also, my vision has always been, I want to do community service. People would ask me, Marshall, why don't you run for judge or something like that? So, well, judges kind of see people when they're already in that system. I've always been more in the preventative model. I want to prevent people from getting in that system. And the best way to keep them from getting in it is to give them opportunity, give them hope, give them a future, give them something else that they can do, because, you know, God gives everybody a gift. If you can identify your gift, contribute to society, and make money, then that's it. That's the whole idea. So I try to find, like, people come in, they have a dream. Marshall, I wish I could do this. I want to do this. I said, well, why not? Let's instead of finding, well, what you can't do, let's find out why you're not doing it right now. And once you take one piece of onion at a time, next thing you know, the pot is full. You've got a sauce pecan going. And I like that kind of cooking. That's what I do in my
practice. Well, get on there with that sauce pecan. Everybody likes a little sauce, right? That is awesome. Well, you know, I thoroughly appreciate the education around this matter. I really like your passion around this matter, and I know when I call you to try to understand what's happening and going on, you're always willing to help and explain that to me. And I know our audience tonight definitely had to enjoy you teaching them about this matter. But tell the audience how they can get in contact with you if they want to.
Okay, well, my firm is the Semien law firm. I'm on 2131 Fitzgerald Road. So I'm not just, when I talk about business in North Lake Charles, I'm not just talking the talk. I'm actually walking the walk. I have a very successful law practice that's sitting right here on the riverside in North Lake Charles. If anybody needs to reach me, my number is area code 337-497-0022. That's 337-497-0022. And you can even reach me out by email. My email is Marshall, MARSHALL, at Semien Law, SIMIEN law.com. And just reach out to me if you want to just have a cup of coffee or have a dream that you want to do. Or if you have a claim that you need to do. You know, I've seen all the commercials about these automobile accident claims. Don't have to do that. I mean, there's a number of people that I've represented. They can tell you whether they got hurt at the plants or automobile accident or just came across some bad situations. We've taken care of them.
Well, that is absolutely awesome. And I am so glad that we got this education tonight on this enterprise extension project. I'm even more excited that it was, they withdrew their submission, right?
Yeah, that's a victory. That's a major victory for our community. That's what happens when we all come together and speak with one voice. I can tell you, at that planning and zoning meeting, the number of people was impressive, but the quality of people that were there was impressive. That let everybody in that room know that this is the end of that. And that's the same thing that's happening nationwide. And you know, Cedrick, the things that I'm talking about, I'm not an original thinker. These are things that was told to me when I was a little boy, you know. The Riverside Park over there used to be Fitz and Ryder Park. We used to go back there. Those guys were playing dominoes and fishing, and they cook a sauce pecan for us. But they talked to us about life. You know, they said, boy, if somebody could just open up this river, this whole river, and let that get developed, that would really help the community. They said, man, that I-10, I don't know why that's not developed. Somebody needs to do this and do that. And so I listened to those guys when I was a little boy. So when I grew up, it's not foreign to me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people in our community have heard the same thing.
Absolutely. There are definitely a lot of opportunities. We just have to look for those opportunities. And North Lake Charles residents, if you're out here listening tonight, I want you to understand that the project that you guys helped defeat is an amazing accomplishment. You fought big business and you won. You know, so take that victory. Now let's not just take the victory and sit down and do nothing. Now we need to look at what are our next things that we need to do. We know that this is a political season. We know that there's a lot of elections that are coming up. So the way that you impact and affect change is that you get out and vote. You got to register, and then you got to get out and vote. Let your voice be heard, right?
Loudly.
Extremely loudly, right? And every vote counts.
And so, you know, and we're talking about North Lake Charles, but this what we deal with, these type of issues, it's not just a North Lake Charles problem. Because if you look around the city, we're in the middle of this boom, this economic boom, but I see areas that's not participating. If you look at Brentwood, the Terrace, the Village, Oak Park, Fisherville, Gosport, Car Shop, all these places you've seen a decline in what's going on in their area. So and the only thing those areas have in common is that they're black. You see in the Kroger's closed, you see in this closed and that closed, and it's not because of anything other than we need to stop worrying about everybody else taking care of us and support our businesses and take care of ourselves. And we need to get together and vote. If we're not getting what we need done, maybe as a silo, North Lake Charles by itself can't get it done. But I guarantee you, if all these areas that are not thriving get together and say, look, we want something done, it will be done.
Absolutely. When we want things to be done, we can definitely do that. There's a comment coming in from Diana Ross. She said, Schuler Oliver has a question with a potential development. Is there any way we could assure our local contractors and builders get fair chances at bid?
Well, you know, when I was on the city council, the city did not have any type of affirmative action or affirmative participation by minority contractors. We got that passed, and the only problem is we needed to put some teeth in it. Now, the proposal was that anybody that's coming to get a bid with the city, they have to have minority participation. And if they don't have minority participation, you can't participate. Well, they didn't want to put that in, but my solution was pretty simple. If you don't come in with some minority participation, your bid is disqualified. It doesn't even get considered. And that's not punishing anybody. That's just saying we're about inclusion, because Lake Charles is a majority Black city. There's no reason for us to not be participating in public dollars that we pay into. None. I mean, that you have those kind of programs statewide in other cities. You have them in the federal government. So why is Lake Charles operating on its own? We can't do that. But there is the ordinance on the books. It just needs to put some teeth in it, and that's it. That should be that if you come to bid and you don't have minority participation, I'm not talking about like, oh, this is the person that sweeps my office, but substantial minority participation, then your bid is disqualified. And if I have a second, I'll give you a real-time example of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Atlanta, when Maynard Jackson became mayor, Atlanta was, Georgia's a different state. And at the time when Maynard Jackson became mayor, the big project that was sitting out there was Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. And Maynard Jackson said, I want 30% minority participation. And these people said, you must be crazy. You just the mayor, you sit there, and we're making all the money. You just sit back and just manage your people. Well, the council kept passing contract after contract. Maynard Jackson refused to sign them. And if the mayor didn't sign the contract, guess what? It didn't happen. So for his whole first term, 4 years, he refused to sign the contract. A lot of those guys who thought they had the upper hand, they had already financed equipment. They started going out of business. So by the time Maynard Jackson ran for re-election, and he was going to get reelected, those guys came up to him and said, look, we see the future. Okay, we're all right with 30%. And Maynard said, well, back then, that was a ceiling. Now that's a floor. And now you look at Atlanta, you don't have those problems at all anymore. Everybody participates.
See, that's the power of making an impact, being a visionary, we say that the law of navigation says anyone can steer a ship. It takes a leader to chart the course. Leaders see before, they see more, and they see farther than everybody else. Right?
Yeah.
And we know that everything rises and falls on leadership.
And leadership has to have a vision, because the people without vision will perish.
Absolutely. Every day, all day, and even on Sunday. Absolutely.
I hope that answers the question, though, because you're right. For us to participate, we need to that needs to be part of the whole qualification. If you're sitting there saying I can't find any minority Black contractors to participate with all the people that I see working on these projects, then shame on you. And I say this to our Black contractors: don't go in there with the mindset that I got to be a sub on any of this stuff. Go out there and be the prime. Go get the project, and then let people come to see about letting you hire them, because that can be done too, and that is being done.
Absolutely, yeah. Don't marginalize yourself. Right.
I heard them talk about like, well, they require a bond and workers' comp and everything like that. And I tell you what, you don't have to go worry about the banks and stuff. I tell my brothers that I told already that retirement plans. Guess what? You are potential investors. Bond out these projects. Get a percentage of the contracts. Just be the bonding agent. Just get the workers' comp and be a part of that contract. And when you build all those people and build those pieces together, you're gonna make a major ripple in the waters around here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this has been an awesome session. I am so glad that we did this session, and we still kept the session even though the company pulled their submission. So this has been awesome education for our audience. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, if it's going to impact you, I just want you to type yes in the comments to let Marshall know that the information he provided to you tonight was worthwhile, was valuable, and it was worth you taking your time to listen to him tonight. So thank you guys very much.
And I'll say congratulations to our community on a well-deserved victory. Don't let it stop.
Absolutely. And I heard someone say this before: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So don't be on the menu.
That's right.
So, we will see you next Monday night for Talk Leadership with Cedrick. Remember, Everybody needs a little TLC. Thank you.
Everybody.